The government there or many opinion leaders say, oh, Richard Koo is wrong. We don't have a balancing recession. We just have a weak consumption. But any recession is weak consumption. The question is, why is it weak? Except in a very high-end semiconductor production. If it's a kind of ordinary jobs, ordinary manufacturing jobs, I'm sure you can find lots of bodies. The unemployment rate is low in the US, but people are not very happy with the jobs they have. If a better paying manufacturing jobs comes, I'm sure they will move to those jobs instead of staying here. I mean, if unemployment rate was the only indicator on presidential election, Harris should have won, right? Unemployment was only 4.1%. It's a very low level. But the fact that Harris lost to Trump means that that unemployment number is not very useful for election. And if I may give you another number, from 1980 to last year, how much did the New York Dow increase? 1980, so that's 40-some years, right? It's 5,000%. How much did the real wage of Americans increase in the same 40 years? Can you guess? 15%. That means, next to nothing for the most of the years, right? This number is the median number, not an average number. Average is much higher because some people in the United States make lots of money. But median number is 15%. That means 50% of the Americans had a wage growth, real wage growth, less than 15% in the last 40 years. So a huge number are probably zero or negative to get 15, right? It's these people who voted for Trump. So yes, unemployment rate is 4.1% at the time of election, I think. But were they having good jobs that were paying them well? The answer is no. Just moving to Mexico, no, Mexico is no good, let's move to Vietnam. That kind of thinking will not work. Because at the end of the day, everybody will be hit. I mean, if you're in a Trump's position, if you're trying to answer to the concerns of these people, you cannot let Vietnam take over the Chinese production because still your people will not have jobs. So talking about where shall we move? I mean, individual business will have to do that as a business, but collectively, as long as Trump is in the White House, they cannot run away. Well, obviously, Taiwan either have to buy more American products or suffer. I mean, they cannot sell as much as they used to be able to sell. However, some of the Taiwan's products, like semiconductors, are very difficult to substitute. This is about the price elasticity, so-called price elasticity of your product. And luckily, Taiwan's largest export is semiconductors. No one can make as good semiconductors as the Taiwanese. And so even if TSMC raised the prices to match the tariff, all the other users will have to buy that. In which case, the effect on Taiwan will be minimal. There will be some impact, but Taiwan, Japan, where very highly sophisticated capital goods are produced, impact will be less. So Taiwan may actually come out better than the others. Well, China thinks, or the policymaker thinks, that if you have enough innovation, the economy should do better. And so Chinese government has put in lots of money, subsidies, to develop better manufacturing techniques and all of that. Of course, their manufacturing capabilities have improved dramatically. And Chinese are innovative people, and many of the products are very, very interesting, attractive. But if the economy is suffering from balance sheet recession, which I think is the case, people's first priority is not to buy the best product, but to repair your balance sheets by paying down debt, increasing savings. And if that trend continues, having great product could still not weaken the economy, but would not be helpful for the recovery, because people just don't want to spend money on interesting products. They want to spend the money to pay down debt. And I think that's what's happening right now. The government there, or many opinion leaders say, oh, Richard Koo is wrong, we don't have a balance sheet recession, we just have a weak consumption. But any recession is weak consumption. The question is, why is it weak? Then I like to look at other indicators. And the indicator I like to look at most is the government bond yield. And if you look at government bond yield in China, 10-year Chinese government bond yield, it's like 1.6%. This is a ridiculous rate for a country like China, where there should still be a lot of investment opportunities in the country. It should be at least 2 to 3%, that kind of range. But it's down to 1.6. Why is that? That's because people are not borrowing money, but people are saving money. But if there's someone saving money, someone has to borrow money. If everybody's saving and no one's borrowing, then the economy collapses, right? What we are seeing is that bond yield is 1.6 means very few people are borrowing. So the banks and the insurance companies that get this money, they have no place to lend this money to. The only borrower left is the government. So they end up buying government bonds, which is why the bond yields come down to these ridiculously low levels. This is what we saw in Japan. We saw this in the United States and Europe after 2008. All of them are in balance sheet recession. And so, some people say, Richard Koo's idea doesn't make sense. It's just weak consumption. But looking at the bond yields, I sense that huge number of Chinese are still saving money, and they're not borrowing and investing money, which means there's a deflationary gap left in the system. And so even though innovative products are coming out, maybe Chinese will buy the innovative products by not buying something else. But the people who are no longer able to sell their products will then have to shrink, right? So if you look at the economy as a whole, the economy is still weak. And I think that's what we have in China today. When the bubble bursts, you have two problems: the borrower's problem and the lender's problem. Borrower's problem is what I call balance sheet recession, which we just discussed. No one's borrowing money, everybody's saving money. Financial crisis is the lender's problem. All these financial institutions lend money to people who played in the bubble and they cannot pay back anymore. Then your non-performing loan increases. You cannot lend, and you might go bankrupt too if your non-performing loan is too large. For this financial crisis, I think Chinese government has done a lot already, starting September of last year. They put in a whole bunch of measures, including capital injection to big banks. And so chances of China experiencing major financial crisis, I think, is limited. Small financial crisis is possible. And I understand that a lot of small banks have already gone bankrupt. But the big problem, like Lehman crisis or the Japan in 1997, that kind of crisis probably are not going to happen unless something really horrible happens somewhere else.